Timothy Cotton, thank you very much for being with us yet once again. The last time you spoke to RT, you stressed the value of competition. What role do you think competition should play in Russia's modernization?
Well, the competition has always spurred Russia in the sense of competing with other countries for security in particular. But that can lead to state-led modernization, which I think Medvedev now wants to moderate to a considerable extent. So the competition at the end, in the end, I guess it has to be between firms and between organizations, and I don't think you can do without it. I think it's what makes the world go forward.
In the recent interview with Larry King and Putin, King quoted one of the leaked documents from WikiLeaks, quoting Robert Gates, saying, "Democracy in Russia is dead and the country is run by an oligarchy of secret services." To which Putin said, well, as far as I know, Robert Gates has been the head of CIA. If he's the only expert you have on democracy, then I congratulate you. It was a pretty cynical answer. What do you think of that answer?
Was your Prime Minister right to answer that way? Well, he has a combative side, and sometimes it gets provoked by certain kinds of questions, and this seemed to be a good example of that. Sure, he was right to express his opinion, by all means. Gates was saying this in an unguarded moment, and it was hardly a profound, comment. Democracy in Russia is dead. Well, I honestly don't think he's an expert on questions like this. Democracy in Russia is not healthy. I'm not sure I would say that it's absolutely dead. As for the secret services, my strong sense here is that their role peaked some time ago, and that they're less relevant to the real government of Russia. I don't mean in their sphere, of course, but to the overall system that you have than they were 5 or 6 or 7 years ago.
Well, with this whole WikiLeaks documents, we could say that the dignity of the U.S. foreign policy is kind of undermined. How can you make sure that you're building a sustainable foreign policy when there's so much gossip and innuendos in it?
Well, I'm not sure that's exactly the problem. These were cables, the ones that have been leaked, that contained reporting on the situation in many different countries, including your country. And diplomats are expected to do these on a daily basis. They often contain information that's not of great value. They're often simply recycling what they hear or what they read in the newspaper. So some of it was very lightweight. I think you can always, since you're talking about 250,000 documents here, and we've only seen a few of them, people are making comments or are reported as saying things that were probably indiscreet or inappropriate. What makes it, though, turns it into a really big problem as opposed to a minor irritant, is that this information is being broadcast all over the world, and including in the country where these conversations were held or these reports were generated. And so seen in a different context, they may seem disrespectful or inappropriate. But I think for American foreign policy, this is a really big problem. I mean, it's really a colossal thing.
The damage is colossal, right?
The damage is huge, absolutely. And I think the biggest problem is, well, there are certain kinds of highly sensitive secrets have now been leaked. For example, that the United States was making contingency plans to locate Pakistan's nuclear arsenal if Pakistan was destabilized. For example, that the United States was talking with the Arabs about possible attack on Iran. These are things that I guess you had suspected were taking place, but now we know. So that's leak of highly sensitive, extremely sensitive information. But I think the biggest problem is the loss of confidence in America's ability to keep confidential conversations confidential. So this is going to affect how Russians and Germans and Chinese and Ukrainians behave when they go into the ambassador's office the next time. And a lot of these relationships are really badly scarred by this. It's going to take years to get over it, and they're going to have to find a way to ensure this doesn't happen again.
So where do you go from now? What now?
Well, they're going to change. They're going to definitely lock this information up again. My understanding is that the problem was made acute by of course, the information technology revolution. Everything is digitized and made available, but it was the post 9/11 review of information sharing within the U.S. government. And the critique was that 9/11 happened because one department didn't speak to another department about this threat to American lives. So therefore they found ways to pool information electronically and put it in databases where it turns out several hundred thousand people had access to these, and one of them, it turns out, was one individual, a very low-ranking Army private, is the one who apparently took it and put it on a hard disk. So I don't think it's going to happen in that form again, and they're going to prosecute him. I mean, he's already under arrest, and presumably the entrepreneurs who've made this available as a deterrent for the next time. But I think my understanding, at least, is that there's no human way to reverse the flow of what's already started to flow.
Well, you said that the biggest problem with these leaked documents is the way it's being put out there for the whole world to see. As an expert, in your opinion, what role is WikiLeaks playing in international media?
It's going to create a lot of headlines between now and February, because it's apparently going to take another 2 or 3 months for all this to be released. And then we're talking about 250,000 documents, so millions of pages that it'll take a long, long time to pour through. I think the media will probably get bored with the story. I mean, they'll look for sensational items, but I don't think by a few weeks from now this will be being reported on the front pages day after day. There's only so much interest in that kind of thing. But at a deeper level, there's going to have to be a serious discussion of this. By the way, there are rumors that some of these people have Russian documents. I don't know whether they're cables or what they are, but that they're actually preparing to unload a bunch of confidential Russian documents after Christmas. It's just a rumor that I've heard here in Moscow.
The relationship between our two countries has been going through ups and downs, and President Obama and Medvedev have done what they could to make it positive again. But now Obama has become a vulnerable president because Republicans won in the Senate in the midterm election. What kind of political swing is happening in America right now?
Well, these so-called midterm elections are always protest elections. So this has happened before. It happened to President Bush to some extent in 2006. It happened to President Clinton in 1994. But this one was a spectacular version of that general pattern. And so it weakens the president kind of in general. But in foreign policy, I mean, it so happens, as you know, that there's a treaty with Russia that needs to be ratified in the Senate. So there's a particular problem there. But that aside...
Can that be salvaged? Can the START treaty be salvaged?
Yeah, I think so. I think it may very well. I think there's probably a 50-50 chance that it'll be ratified by January 1st. And if it's not ratified by then, it still may very well get ratified by the new Senate after it comes back. It's just that the price that the Republican senators will extract from the administration in terms of things that they want will go up considerably. But I think the odds favor it because, it's even the people who have attacked it, with some exceptions, are not attacking it on its merits. Or they're saying assurances that were provided in memorandums of understanding between the two governments should be put into the treaty. But no one's saying that the provisions that were worked out, almost no one is saying that there's anything fundamentally wrong with them. So here Russia is going to have to, I think, exhibit some patience and, think about their long-term interest of the relationship. I think the treaty will be ratified.
How do you assess the impact of the Tea Party politics on U.S. relations with its international partners?
It's hard to say. I think the Tea Party candidates didn't do that great in the election. Almost none of the people with its endorsement who were running for the Senate or governor's offices actually won. But still, it's a factor in shaping the general political environment. They're, unlike the neocons, the conservatives who staffed Bush's cabinet, who had a foreign policy agenda, which is one of the things that fed the deterioration in relations with Russia after 2002. These people don't really have much of an interest in foreign policy. I mean, they're populist. If anything, they're a little bit isolationist. They kind of want the world to go away. They don't want Americans to be paying for a lot of things. So Some of them want the defense budget to be cut. So it's, the effects would be rather complex. One of the unfortunate sides of this, though, is that I think any candidate who rides this wave is likely going to be not to know a lot about the world outside or about foreign policy, and Sarah Palin's a good example of this. I mean, she's an intelligent woman and she may learn quickly, but boy, she's starting obviously with a very low level of familiarity, let alone deep knowledge.
She still confuses North and South Korea.
She's made a few of these gaffes, but for a world power, I think you expect a higher level of competence on foreign policy.
Despite President Obama's transition candidate potential, it does seem like the state depth is still dividing the world into good and evil. What impact do you think that will have on relations with Russia?
The relationship with Russia has improved, and the State Department is a great big bureaucracy. It's got an analytical wing, it's got foreign service officers, there are lots of different things going on, and I think there's a range of opinion. Not so much about Russia per se, but about Russia under its current leadership, put it that way. But I think the State Department people who are involved in implementing this policy are behind it. And I'm setting aside comments and cables and things that I don't think really add up to a lot. I think that they're on the whole trying to make it work.
Thank you very much for this interview, Mr. Galton.
You're welcome. My pleasure.